Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. You got Austin Linney here, and we have my man Cody in the house. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, buddy. Good. Thanks for having me.
See, guys, you just missed. I'm telling you, there's got to be another show like before. We're going to call it before and after the podcast because he was just spitting some gold. So I know you're going to like this guy. And you mentioned your crazy life you live. So, you know, what I like to do with my guests is kind of let them start the story where they want to, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there.
Sure. Sounds good. Well, I mentioned you before the show, you know, yeah, I'm in the land business and real estate and, you know, but we're creating actually a Cody Bjugan website right now, my personal brand. And one of the statements that'll be right on the homepage is chase fulfillment, not finances. And I think, you know, the more I focused on what I mentioned to you earlier, my tagline, which is PIF, purpose, impact, fulfillment. The more I focus on that, right? My purpose, which leads to impact, which leads to fulfillment. The more I focus on that, and I know we've all heard it before, but I'm telling you, I'm experiencing it. The easier the money comes. You know, we can go, and I did it in first cycle of my career in my early 20s. In my 20s, I made a gobble of money, right? But my life was so out of balance. And I don't think perfect balance is even possible, because I would call that perfection. Perfect is our Lord Jesus. But, you know, we can strive to keep all the different pillars of our life in balance, right? That's the goal, to keep all those in the success category, right? Some you're going to be doing better than others, but, you know, keep them progressing forward versus, you know, losing in the different pillars. So, anyways, yeah, I think, you know, I mean, obviously finances is a tool. And I think it's a very valuable tool, because then it allows you time freedom to where you have a shot at being successful in all pillars of your life. It's very hard to do, you know, to be dialed into your hobbies, dialed into your health, dialed into your family, dialed into your friends, dialed into your spiritual life, dialed in all these areas without a certain amount of time freedom. It's difficult to do. And so, I'm kind of all over the place, but at the end of the day, you know, my thing today is PIF, just purpose, impact, fulfillment. And the more I focus on that, the more I give back, the more I share, just the easier the other things become. So, yeah,
I mean, there's so much there. I think what's super important is, I think the people that don't, let's say they're working towards to come up, you know, they haven't made the money. You know, you talk to them, and when I look down at their goals, I can read the words and know that they're hollow. Like, this is so hollow. Like, I'm going to make $1 million and I'm going to make 10,000. And it's like, it's these generic BS. And I'm like, no. What do you really want? Yeah. Well, I want to do this. And so one of the things that I try to ask them a question, especially my clients, is like, what did you like to do as a kid?
Yeah.
Like, what did you like to do as a kid? Right. And so, you know, anytime I meet somebody like you that's been wildly successful, you know, I think that there's seasons in your life. And I think that, you know, what's interesting about the season of giving back and focus on impact is you actually make way more money. Way more money that way. Right. And it's not because you're not even trying, but that's because you're living inside you. And I know what you're dealing with right now, because I just went through it last year. You know, building out your own personal brand, you start really tapping in to parts of yourself when you have to answer these questions that you probably people don't think about all the time. So what have you found out about yourself through this process in this last couple of months or this last year that's really surprised you about yourself?
Oh, I think probably the biggest thing I've come to realize is, you know, the first 20 years of my career, like you mentioned, I was chasing all the wrong things, right? Like, and I'll just tell you, like, I didn't really start my personal development, my personal growth journey until I turned 40, and I'm 43 today. And the amount of growth I've experienced in all areas of my life has trumped the 20 years prior. Right. So, because you're going to have people in your audience that, here's the reality. There's a lot of people right now making a lot of money, and they're thinking they're really, really smart. And I'm telling you right now, it's the market making you money, not necessarily your business model or your intelligence. And so what happens is you get on that wave, right? And I went through that wave in my 20s, and I thought I was a snot-nosed punk at the end of the day. I didn't have mentors. I wasn't, doing courses. I wasn't reading books. I wasn't listening to podcasts. I didn't have mentor. I didn't have any of that. Right? Wasn't in any masterminds. When I see young people that are focused on their personal growth and being mentored and how to grow, I'm just so excited for them, because I don't believe in regrets. But if there's one thing I would have done different now that I'm really focused on fulfillment and becoming the best I can be, is, man, if I would have started that journey in my 20s, wow, I can't even imagine. Right. Mm-hmm. But here nor there, the Lord has his own timing. Right. For me, the timing was my 40s. But I want to encourage, obviously, if they're listening here to this podcast, that I just want to encourage you to continue to travel down that road, because the last 3 years of my life, and if my wife was sitting right here, she would vouch for what I'm about to say, is that I am a different guy today than I was just 3 years ago, like totally different guy. And just so, to wrap that up, I would just say, just make sure you're chasing the right stuff, and like I said, I right now I'm chasing fulfillment, right? I'm, on my shirt, I have, things like, make a difference, here to serve. What's your legacy? Believe, action, faith, stop settling, purpose, impact, fulfillment. Like I have all this stuff, and this is kind of the stuff I'm living right now. Like one is believe, action, faith. Like this is probably the biggest thing I've gotten recently in the last few years, is I heard a sermon at church, actually, but what I'm about to say doesn't just relate to your spiritual life. It relates to anything in your life, literally anything. And that is that I used to always look at believing and faith as the same thing, that if I believe in something, it's the same thing as having faith. And it's so different. Believe and faith are completely two different things. You can believe that you can go do this, or believe in the Lord, or believe in this or that or whatever. But you got to have faith to go along with it, because faith is realizing you're not in control. Right. And in the church, a lot of times they go right from believe to faith, but they skip over the center word, which is action. Right. And so I have this big thing, believe, action, faith, whatever it is you want to go do. Believe first, you got to believe it's possible. You got to believe you're worthy. You got to empower yourself, right? You got to give yourself permission. That's not enough, though. Next is you got to take action on whatever it is that's needed to get that done. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, you got to realize just believing in action alone isn't enough. You've got to realize you're not in control of everything. And that's where the faith component comes in, is that you got to have faith that at the end of the day, you believe that you took the steps, and beyond that, it's not up to you, right? You can go plant your garden and you can hoe it and you can do all the things, but at the end of the day, the vegetation is not up to you, right? Like you're not in control of the rain. You're not, so on and so forth. And so, because here's the reality: if you're an entrepreneur or you're taking the entrepreneur journey, it's not the easy road. There is a lot of anxiety that goes along with being an entrepreneur. I've never met an entrepreneur that hasn't struggled with anxiety or struggling with anxiety. And whenever I catch myself with anxiety sneaking in, I realize that I'm not exercising my faith muscle, that I'm trying to control things. And so what happens is for me, it's either anxiety or peace, right? And so I'm either have anxiety or I have peace. And the only way I can have peace is through exercising faith. So that has definitely been the biggest discovery I've had in the last few years.
I love it. I read I was having a call with a friend, and she's like, "You need to read this book." She's like, "If anybody needs to read this book, you need to read this book." And it was a surrender experiment.
Oh yeah.
And you know, especially in my 20s, I think that the word force could have been probably like next to right in between my first and last name.
Yes.
I'm going to get there no matter what,
Yeah.
and my friend brought this to my attention, and she said, "Look, I have no idea, I have no question that you're going to be successful. I have no problem that you're going to get everything that you want out of life, but who's going to be around when
Yeah.
you get there?"
Oh wow. Yeah, that's
And
good.
it was like, you're right. And in that short amount of time, I've got divorced, I've got laid off, I've moved across the country 3 times, businesses failed, businesses are going great, but we're here, right? And
Yeah.
like you said, like and the thing is, as I'm reading your shirt, the problem is I think the issue is that people have that switched around backwards. I think they're
100.
sitting around and waiting for the faith to put them into action, to give them the
Yeah.
belief, when it
Yeah.
actually needs to
Yeah.
be the
Yeah.
other around.
Just yeah. I just did a post today and it said, stop thinking about it. Right. Um, and then in the text of the post, it said, not only stop thinking about it, definitely, I said, stop thinking about it for yourself. Do yourself a favor and stop thinking about it. Do everybody else a favor and stop talking about it.
Ooh.
Right. Like,
Oof.
you know, believe, right? Obviously you haven't even believed it yet, because if you truly believed it, you'd be willing to face the fear of the unknown, right? Like fear's the majority of this audience that isn't doing what you want to be doing right now. And you're on the edge of having regrets, right? The only majority of it's fear, man. It's just that you truly don't believe in yourself, or you haven't empowered yourself. You haven't given yourself permission, right? Like, you are worthy, but at the end of the day, you haven't figured out how to truly get around the believing aspect to where you will go accomplish that fear. And I just can't encourage everybody enough, man. I've had all kinds of fear throughout my life. And every time I've went to battle with fear, and got uncomfortable, I've never looked back and regretted facing fear.
It's like ever regretting a workout. You never regret it. Doesn't mean you want to do it every time. But here's what's interesting, right? This is something I'm playing with because I think it's more true, and I see it in my clients. I actually don't think they're scared of failing. I think they're scared shitless of winning.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is comfort, back against the wall, toxicity. That is a comfort. That's a warm coat. But if I win and I'm happy and my life is good and I'm healthy, when's the shoe going to drop?
Yeah. 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 That's a good point. I mean, and guess what? It's going to drop. That's just part of the journey.
Welcome.
Right. Someone said to me the other day that, the way I learned to walk is by falling over and over again and keep getting up. Right. Like, but man, my failures is where all the growth has happened. Right. Like, I'll tell you this. You go through failures, you go through trials, tribulations, challenges. You have a choice. You come out the other side and you either reflect and you grow, right? Or you come out the other side and you feel sorry for yourself. You take on the victim mentality. And I've seen both, right? I'm sure we all have. So here's my ultimate goal, and I'm not there yet. Because I know I got more trials and tribulations coming, and I got more failures coming, right? And I can look back on the past ones in hindsight and be thankful for them, like truly thankful. Okay. So if we want to talk about money, I was worth, 8 figures in my mid 20s. Right. And I lost 90% of it in 1 year when the market crashed. And, I can truly look back on that and be thankful, because it humbled me and, it created a little bit of maturity and growth and whatnot. But here's the ultimate goal. I got more of them coming. The challenge for me, or the test I have for myself, is when it comes, because it's coming, in the midst of it, can I be thankful for it? Right? In the midst of a trial or tribulation or failure, can I be thankful for it in the midst of it? To me, that's the ultimate goal. And so we'll see. Things are pretty good right now, but we'll see.
So I've interviewed 400, maybe 500 people between my two podcasts in the last year and a half, right? And interviewed Jake, interviewed Aaron Amusastegi, who I know both of those guys, and now you're telling me the same thing you went through. And each one of you, and I want everybody to open their damn ears when I say this, each one of you got taken behind the woodshed and beat senseless during that first crash. Yeah. And each one of you are more successful than you ever were. You're happier than you ever were, and you're more humble than you ever were. And in my opinion, it made you, all three of y'all, who you are today. 100%.
Because I know both those guys, right? 100%. I actually see it as an advantage, right? Like, I have a huge advantage over guys that haven't experienced that. Huge advantage.
They're not looking at the holes in their game.
No. And they don't know what it feels like. They don't, I'll tell you, because the market at some point is going to turn. It's going to, right? We don't know when. We're in kind of uncharted territory now. But the biggest mistake I made last downturn is I was just in survival mode versus opportunity mode. Meaning that, remember this, one thing I know today is, am I looking forward to a downturn? No. Are we doing great right now? Yes. But real wealth is built in a downturn. And because you got to put the opportunity hat on, right? And you got to go after, that's when the deals are available. Right now, everybody's kicking each other's teeth in on deals to get them. And that's just not the case in a down market. So, but I didn't understand that the downturn I went through in 07, 08. And I understand it today. And so I'm really interested when that time comes, what it'll be like. But I wouldn't even have that mind. There's so many guys right now that they just don't have that understanding or that mindset. And I pray you learn from my experiences, or Jake's or Aaron's, is that, look at that time when it comes as an opportunity, because that's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. we went to zero with our Airbnb business. I took a huge loss on my taxes, lost all my income, from that. And, it's such a blessing, because now the company is built back 20 times stronger in the exact way I want to. And let's be honest, I actually needed that reset with the business. Yeah. I needed that time away. And now we're going to build it back 30 times bigger in the right way with the right people. And the $26,000 I lost in my first business, I got sober because of those guys. So would I pay them over and over again? I'll lose that 26 grand over and over again. So, I think I said something in a podcast a couple of weeks ago that really resonated with people. I said, failure and success are the same thing. They're on the equal scale, all the same. Yeah. And when, just like you said, when you see it as an opportunity, that's when you've mastered the game. Yeah. And everybody's saying, well, I'm going to sit on the sidelines and I'm going to wait till the market changes to invest. And I'm like, or you could be like everybody else and they're always buying deals. You're letting, I think that too many people let outside forces dictate how they operate. It's just not okay.
Yeah. If you're not having failures or successes, it just means you're not doing anything. You're not taking any action. Right. And so I would say failure and success are very, very similar, because they both, in order to have either one, you've got to be taking action, right? You got to be executing, you got to be making stuff happen. And so, I can see where you would say they're very closely tied together. 100%.
So, and then now we're going to get into the selfish part of the podcast, because I want to learn about land, and I want to, it's been something that we've been looking into. And I think, I've got a really good friend in Austin who's been in the game for a long time in the land business, has multiple properties, coaches people on it. I think it's probably one of the more misunderstood real estate asset classes. We've been doing some builds. Those are a nightmare, getting approvals from the city. So, just on an overall point of view, because I'm sure you get asked the same questions all the time, and I don't want to do that. What do you think is the most misunderstood aspect when it comes to land investing that people always get wrong?
I mean, I think people often see the barrier of entry, or they overanalyze the complexities of, remember, we don't just do land, we do land with development potential. And so it's just, people a lot of times think, oh, a land developer, I have to have a ton of money, or I had to have, have money, a family business, and there's just way too much risk and way too much capital. And there's no education out there. Like, it's kind of this unknown territory. And it's why not only have I been doing it for 20 years, but I started teaching it 2 years ago. So I have Allied Development, which is my development business, but then I have VestRight, which is my education company that we teach exactly what we do. Mm-hmm. And, here's the reality as far as construction. Okay. So horizontal construction, which is land development, which is infrastructure, streets, utilities, all that stuff. I don't even teach that stuff because I don't have any magic sauce there or any specialized experience. And quite frankly, it's just technical, and there's a ton of education out there on horizontal construction or vertical construction. So I don't teach that at all. What I teach is what's the blue ocean, right? And so no matter what asset class you're in, I don't care if you're in multifamily, single family, storage, industrial, retail, I don't care. If you can learn how to prospect off-market deals, remember, everything we do is off-market. If you can learn how to prospect off-market deals, make a note of this. Whoever controls the dirt controls the deal, period. Whoever controls the dirt controls the deal. Secondly, deal flow is everything. Okay. It's very hard to grow your business and scale your business without deal flow. So if you're totally basing your business off of brokers and on-market deals, you're not in control of your own deal flow. The way you're in control of your own deal flow is to learn how to prospect off market. Okay. So that's the first part, is prospecting off market. Secondly is the entitlement process, or the governmental approval process, the land use process. That's where so many people are intimidated. So we teach off-market prospecting and we teach entitlements. Okay. And then how to exit these deals. And what we teach is you can get into this game with very little to no capital and very little risk, because the market is so hot right now. We've done tons of development, tons of vertical construction. With what's going on right now and the pent up demand, we're exiting most of our deals at approval. Okay. So once we get it approved, we exit, and we're actually able to take the majority of the profit at approvals without taking on any of the development risk. Once you decide to develop it, the capital needed multiplies by about 10x. And then you have about 3x that additional capital needed in debt to do a deal. So we avoid all of that. And so what we do is we tie up off-market deals that have development potential. We take them through that entitlement approval process, and then we exit. And what that is value add. For those of you that understand value add, is, guys that are going and buying an existing storage facility, multifamily, retail, whatever, they're figuring out how to increase the value of that existing facility, right? By either increasing rents, decreasing costs, whatever. That's a value add. Well, we do the same thing with land, value add. I didn't just say we do off-market raw land. I said we do off-market raw land with development potential. And so what happens is when you take a piece of ag land, farmland, and you get it through that entitlement approval process, you get it approved, that's a value add play. So there's a huge value increase once it's approved. And that's the business we're in. And that's exactly what we teach over at VestRight. That's our niche. That's our blue ocean.
And are you doing any horizontal development? Or are you just getting it through entitled and then turning it off to somebody?
So when we underwrite our deals, we underwrite them all the way through vertical construction, not just the horizontal, not just development.
So you're saying this is the best, highest use for this piece of land. Who wants to come do that? And you become such a value proposition for these developers because they don't have the time because they just get to go and build. So, I mean, I mean, and because there's so much capital out there right now, and these deals, like you said, these deals are so hot, like it's super easy for them to pay because you sped up their timeline probably by 1 to 2 years, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so we underwrite to do the whole thing, all the construction, everything. But because of the market, we'll float. We don't put any of our stuff on the market, but we'll float out our deals out to specific buyers, mainly publicly traded companies, to what would they pay at approval. In the last few years, we've just been exiting every deal at approval because the additional money left in the deal as far as profit or margin or upside is very limited because the demand is so high. What they'll pay us at approvals, it makes no sense for us to take on the development risk at all. And so, we've been exiting most of our deals at approval because we don't have this big home building machine or whatever that we've got to feed lots to. Right. And so these guys need those lots. They got to feed that machine. They got to try to meet the demand of the market. And so it's just, they love us because we're deal flow for them. Right. And quite frankly, none of these guys want to do entitlements. Most of these larger companies, they got to work within a certain box, a very strict box. And so for them sometimes to try to make something work for a property owner, they got to go outside their box. And so they can't, right? Is that the hot buttons of the property owner, a lot of times they can't meet those hot buttons. Same thing with jurisdictions. Jurisdictions are no different. They have their hot buttons, what's important to them. And a lot of times these, my clients, they can't go outside their box. They're not allowed to be creative. And so property owner purchases or entitlements is a challenge for them because they got to stay within such a defined box.
Well, it's interesting because, I think that everybody is in love with the flash. And what I'm realizing is maybe I read it in a book or I'm just getting older. I can't decide, but I'm going after everything that nobody doesn't want to do. And then it's boring as shit. I want stuff that puts people to sleep. We've been going through for 6 months, what you're talking about, entitlement stuff. And that shit's for the birds. I'm never again. It is no. And it's just not my personality. But I can find people that can, but I agree with you 100%. I think, what I've met and just, I coach a client who does land wholesaling. I have another friend who does land wholesaling. It's this niche of a niche market, but, with the demand that we're seeing and kind of the due diligence and knowing the different, jurisdictions and county regs and all that, like there's a lot there, but at the end of the day, most investors, if you ask them, they're like, oh, I want the cool building, I want to say I built that. And you're like, hey, this is so much better because, not only that, your money's not tied up forever either. And there's things that could happen. The market could shift. And but
here's the thing though, is so I can create that. So I can exit at approvals, take the ordinary income, the big payday, or I can choose if I want passive, I want cash flow, I want residual, I want mailbox. I can just stay in the deal and get a piece of the GP. Right. So because I'm in control of the dirt, I can go however I want. I can go ordinary income or I can go cash flow. And it's because whoever controls the dirt controls the deal.
Oh, so good. And at one point, I know it changes from time to time, but how many deals are you currently do you do at one time? Is it we launched our Allied Land Fund September, which, thank the Lord, it fully subscribed in 3.5 hours after our live webinar. And so right now, and I brought in a CEO. My biggest takeaway in 2020, by the way, and remember, I've been doing this 20 years, was that I had to get out of the way. My business wasn't scaling because of me, right? I'm not an executive. I'm just a dirt guy with a vision. And so, and I shouldn't say just, but I'm a dirt guy with a vision. And so my business now is a gazillion times bigger than it's ever been. Prior to me stepping aside and allowing the CEO to go do his thing, I was really just a practitioner with admins around me, right? I was the business. And so when I chose that I had to separate my identity from the company, it's been wonderful. And so to answer your question, we have a headquarters in Dallas, Texas, and that's where all our staff is, our team is, our CEO, all our executives.
and we're scaling across the country right now. So we're doing deals all over the place. And so Lord willing, our projected goal for 2022 is that we will acquire a minimum of 5,000 lots, right? So through raw land, based upon the amount of lots we can put on that, we'll put together enough dirt deals for 5,000 lots. And we're well on our way. I'll tell you, just in December, we inked enough land deals that it generated over 1,000 lots, right? So just in December. But we're all over the place, right? And we have 4 cold callers on our team, and we're going after it.
I just want to say thank you. So about 3 hours ago, I just had a conversation with my girlfriend that said, I have to bring in somebody to run this baby for me, like meaning like all my businesses and stuff. And it's that next step. And it is scary because it's a lot of money and it's a responsibility, but I agree with you 100%. So for you saying that, like, thank you, because you just reconfirmed what I already felt this morning.
And it's humbling, right? Like it's, and I'll tell you that if I haven't been through the trials and tribulations I have in order to humble me, I probably would never have come to that point in 20 to be able to truly look at reality and be humble enough to say, I'm the problem, right? Like that's pretty humbling. But since I've done it, like my life's better than ever. I mean, and so it's just, and I'm not saying it's easy either. Like handing over the reins of your business is not an easy process. And it's still a process, right? Like we're still, but also, when you're trying to find that person, man, do your due diligence, right? I mean, it took me 7 months and a very intense interviewing process. I put together kind of the step-by-step process of them interviewing me interviewing them, them spending time with my right-hand guy, to flying them in to go play golf with me a personal day, to them doing a panel interview with close peers of mine, there was a whole process to it. But that was necessary to find the right guy. And, but even after all that, it still hasn't been easy. I'm thankful I made the decision, but it's a process.
Love it. And so much good stuff in this episode, man. I'm really looking forward to checking out your content and the stuff that you got going on, because I want to learn. How would people go out about finding how to learn and all this stuff?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, as far as the off-market raw land and that has development potential and entitlements and all of that, I don't know of anybody else out there teaching this stuff. And we haven't had a student. We've had hundreds of students. No one that hasn't come out the other side saying, dude, that was off the charts. Right. So our goal is to over deliver on value. So we have 2 main courses right now. One where we'll teach you the prospecting, the entitlements, and how to exit. And then a recent course we came out with is that people are like, hey, Cody, we just want to partner with you, right? We want you to capitalize it. We want you to run entitlements. We want you to handle the exit, the sell. We'll just tee deals up for you. So then we kept hearing that over and over again. So we created a second course called LPU, which is Land Prospecting Unleashed. And so a link, I would say, if you want to learn more and consume some content, go to VestRight.com, VestRight.com/my name, Cody, CODY. And we have it's a great place for you to get started, start building a relationship with VestRight, see a bunch of our free content, learn about our different courses. And then as far as me and just, I'm putting out content all the time on social. Best place to find me is Facebook, just at Cody Bjugan. Man, we'd love to be a part of your journey, and we're here to, be a part of, making a difference, right, and having an impact. So
I love it. And thank you so much for coming on. Guys, if you like this episode, send it out to your friends, share it with somebody to get some value, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.